Chapter 2. Evan plunked onto the examination table and yanked his phone from his pocket. "Why are you constantly absorbed with your cell phone?" Penelope seated herself on an empty chair across from him. "Everything is on the internet, Mom. Everyone famous and whatever's going on in the world." Penelope pulled out her own cell phone and gestured toward the window. "Isn't the world happening outside and all around us? Your screen doesn't tell the truth." "You're on your phone." "I intend to get some work done." He stared straight ahead, his features impassive. "Then why are you always watching me?" "I don't mean to. I'm worried about you." "I've had strep throat 4 times." "Exactly." In fact, her nerves were frayed. Evan had never been a sickly child, but this year things were different, beginning with his unhealthy diet. She vowed to make changes in her grocery shopping and eliminate the candy and chips they'd both grown so fond of. The door opened abruptly, and Penelope reminded Evan to put his phone away. "Good day, mate. Evan, is it?" A tall man stepped inside, his deep male greeting filling the tiny room. His voice, that accent, she'd recognize him anywhere. Penelope snapped her phone shut and slowly rose to her feet. An email she'd been typing to an employee was halted in mid-sentence. Evan swung his legs back and forth, clearly impatient, still wearing his black leather jacket. He glanced up from the latest video on his phone, a tower defense game he tried to explain to her once. At her stern frown and second sharp reminder, he shoved the phone into his pocket. "I'm Dr. Williams." This attractive doctor, wearing a white coat and khaki pants, exuded competence as he closed the door behind him. A stethoscope hung from around his neck. He looked up from the chart on his clipboard, gave Evan a sincere smile, then turned to Penelope. Her heart did a double flip. "You here?" she asked. A beat of silence passed. "Penelope Reed." He smiled. "I recognize the last name." "What are you doing in Roses?" She found herself staring. Why couldn't she shake off this attraction to him? Since they'd met on the plane, she continued to envision his slow, discerning smile. His voice had been gentle when he'd leaned close and assured her that he didn't mind her babbling. He set down the chart. "I bought the practice from Dr. Damien." "I thought you preferred big cities." "I changed my mind." "Whoa, not because of her. No, of course not." "You never mentioned anything on the plane," she said. "What plane?" Evan asked. "Dr. Williams and I met a while ago when we flew back from Virginia. I visited several physicians' practices before making my final decision." Jacob studied her. "I interviewed in Virginia, then planned to fly on to Florida. I made a detour in Hilton Head." "A detour," she echoed. "To Roses. You never mentioned any interviews." Why would an older doctor buy another doctor's practice? Had Jacob lost his own practice due to incompetence? He offered a half smile. "I believe you did most of the talking on the plane." He was hardly the young, recently out of medical school doctor she'd anticipated. He turned to Evan, who assessed their conversation with a peculiar, thoughtful scowl. "Anything you'd like to talk to me about, Evan?" Jacob asked. "How's it hanging?" "My throat hurts." "You're how old?" Jacob scanned Evan's chart. "I'm 12. "Almost an adult, mate. Shall we ask your mom to leave?" "No." Evan shot a glance toward Penelope. "She can stay. She has a sore throat, too." "I'm fine." She waved off his remark. She didn't want to discuss any illness of hers with Jacob Williams. She intended to keep her replies brief and avoid any personal connection. "My sore throat went away." "Did it?" Jacob pressed the back of his hand to her forehead. His touch was warm and firm. Her cheeks heated. She wants you to recommend an over-the-counter medicine for her, Evan chimed in. Jacob quirked an eyebrow. Does she now? If her recommendation isn't too much trouble, she said. Jacob dropped his hand. No trouble at all. Let's have a look at your son first. He lifted his stethoscope and listened to Evan's heart and lungs. Nothing of concern there. He flipped a page on his chart and made a note. Then he produced a swab and instructed Evan to say, ah. Much to Penelope's surprise, Evan didn't gag. His usual sullen expression vanished. In fact, he urged Jacob to explain the test. Evan is tossing around becoming a physician or a veterinarian when he gets older, Penelope explained. Evan crossed his arms. I want a puppy. Do you like dogs, mate? Jacob asked. I love dogs. Is that why you're interested in becoming a vet? Evan shrugged. Maybe. I'm encouraging him. Penelope turned to Jacob. What mother doesn't hope her son will someday become a doctor? I can name one. Jacob looked away before meeting her gaze. You're a sweet and caring mum, Penelope read. I don't know about the sweet part. Evan was scowling at her again. Flustered, she groped for a subject change. Evan loves all animals. People, well, not so much. The medical profession needs bright young minds, Jacob said. They returned to the waiting room while awaiting the results, then were summoned back to the examining room. As Penelope suspected, the test confirmed strep throat. Evan's eyes widened. I've got strep throat for the 5th time? Does your throat still hurt? She asked. Are you kidding? Yes. She turned to Jacob. Our previous doctor recommended a tonsillectomy for Evan. Weigh the pros and cons of a tonsillectomy at Evan's age, Jacob said. There's always a risk of complications from the surgery. A recent study suggests patients are more prone to long-term respiratory disease afterwards. I don't want an operation, Evan said. I agree, at least for now. Jacob extended a hand to Evan and shook. Have a good one. I'll send a prescription for antibiotics to the local pharmacy, and you should start feeling better in 2 or 3 days. And this is my recommendation for your mom. He scribbled on a sheet of paper and handed it to her. She scanned the instructions. Tea with honey and lemon and loads of rest? Works like a charm. When should Evan return to school? I'd advise he stay home for at least 48 hours after he starts the antibiotics. Good, Evan said. If I don't ever have to go to school again, my life will be a whole lot better. Quitting isn't an option, Evan, she broke in. You'll never be a doctor if you can't finish junior high. Evan opened his mouth. The last thing she needed was her son spilling more of their personal affairs. Jacob Williams knew enough about her already. She cut Evan off with an abrupt nod. Thank you, doctor, she said. Please, call me Jacob. She felt torn. She really wanted to keep up the formality in a doctor's office, but she really, really liked calling Jacob by his first name. She nodded. Okay. Thanks, Dr. Jacob, Evan chimed in. Not you, she replied. To you, he's Dr. Williams. Why? That's not fair. Life isn't always fair. We're adults. You're a kid, and you must be respectful. Why would your life be better if you didn't attend school? Jacob's gaze swayed to Evan. Because all the kids hate me and I hate them. I could use some help in my clinic. Do you ever volunteer? Evan lifted his shoulders. Not much, unless I go with my mom. Oh? Where do you go? She and Uncle Lincoln donate toys to the homeless center in town. Several of the families I see are refugees from other countries, Jacob said. They come into my clinic for free health care. We hang out with the kids at the shelter and help them with homework and stuff, Evan continued. Mom was bringing in the wooden dolls she made, but not anymore. I'm tied up at work, she murmured. Admirable and very creative. I encourage you to get back to it. Jacob shot Penelope an approving glance, then turned to Evan. Would you like to lend a hand in the clinic, mate? Evan fixed his gaze on the tile floor. Doing what? Whatever the moment requires, because of the patient's needs. They change minute by minute. How are your phone skills? Okay. We need more beds and chairs. I'll give you a list of the other clinics in the area, Jacob said. Do you speak Spanish? He doesn't, but Evan took a signing class last year, Penelope put in. I'm in 7th grade. Evan rolled his eyes. I can communicate all by myself, Mom. Jacob concentrated on Evan. Signing will be helpful for my deaf patients. Okay, Evan mumbled. Penelope's eyebrows raised. I can't believe my son agreed so easily. Excellent. Jacob patted Evan on the back, and she caught Jacob's smirk as he winked at her. I'll ask the nurse to provide the details. She volunteers at the clinic every Saturday morning. Will Saturday work for you, Evan? I guess. Can you arrive by 7? Evan blinked. A.M.? Yep. Evan doesn't usually get up until... Penelope tried to keep her voice neutral. Jacob made eye contact with her and gave a subtle shake of his head. His silent message to allow Evan to answer for himself stopped her. She knew what Jacob surmised. She was an overprotective, hovering parent. Evan broke the ensuing silence. All right, I'll get up early. Let's plan on a week from this upcoming Saturday, so you have several days to recuperate. As they exited, Penelope's chest filled with encouragement over the conversation. Jacob Williams had accomplished a great deal during their short visit. Whether he realized or not, and she had a sneaking suspicion he did, he'd given her son a purpose. At the pharmacy, Evan waited in the car. Penelope hastened inside and collided with Candy Winchester, a local realtor. Candy was a striking woman with wavy auburn hair and an amiable personality. She'd married Teddy, one of her clients and a real estate investor. They'd adopted his nephew, Joseph, who loved horses. What brings you to the pharmacy on a weekday morning? Candy slung her handbag over her shoulder and juggled a bag filled with cleaning supplies. She explained that she and Teddy were redoing her office. I'm picking up a prescription for Evan, Penelope said. He has strep throat again. Did you see the handsome new doctor? The guy everyone is fixated on? Who else? Candy had made a name for herself as a town matchmaker, and Penelope recognized her Cupid grin from a mile away. I'm working to find him a house here. In the meantime, he's renting an apartment at the Old Roses Hotel. Lincoln never mentioned anything. Lincoln and Penelope had purchased the rundown hotel and renovated it. Besides an investment, the hotel provided housing for their toy shop employees. A couple of years ago, though, they'd sold the hotel, preferring to concentrate on their business rather than real estate. I've shown Dr. Williams numerous properties, though he's very particular. Candy fingered the gold cross earrings she always wore. He wants what he wants, all wrapped up in a certain low price range. I assumed a doctor's salary was more than ample. For whatever reason, not in his case. Penelope picked up the prescription. Before she headed out the door, she bought 3 chocolate candy bars. She earned them, she decided, for seeing a challenging week ahead while caring for her cranky son.